In this video, I would like to deal briefly with the concept and the teaching of the Bible concerning original sin and the imputation of that sin from Adam to the whole human race, and then the imputation of the righteousness of Christ to those who believe to the whole human race. I am reading in Romans 5:15 to start with, and then later 17. It says, Al uk hosta paraptoma, not as the trespass, hutos kaita charisma, thus also the grace, egarto tu henas paraptomati, for if by the trespass of the one, mainly Adam, hoi polloi apesthenon, many died. Many here, I believe, referring to all, died. And then palo malan he kadis tu theu, how much more is the grace of God, kai he dorea in kaditi, and the gift in grace, te tu henas anthropou, Jesu Christu, by the one man, Jesus Christ, eis tous palus aperiusin, did it abound unto the many. In other words, Paul's drawing a contrast here. Notice, by the transgression of the one man, meaning Adam, of the one man, Adam, whom the New Testament here clearly understands as a historical person. By that one man, many died. In other words, God imputed the sin of Adam upon everybody. When Adam sinned, God said everybody sinned, as I'm understanding Paul, and imputed that on the human race. Palo malan, much more, he kadis tu theu, much more the grace of God, and the free gift in grace, he dorea in kaditi, by the one man Jesus Christ, te tu henas anthropou, Jesu Christu, did it abound unto the many. Eis tous palus aperisusin. In other words, it took one free gift of grace in Jesus Christ that God provided, and it abounded unto the many, meaning here those who receive it, as we'll see, just referring to this context or to this chapter here. So by one man, that's where sin came from. And sin was imputed, that is, put upon the whole human race, Paul's saying. From that one man, sin entered into every human being born in sin, or we have imputed or inherited sin that God imputed to all mankind. And we also have actual sin. Paul says, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But then, furthermore, notice he says, for if by the trespass of the one man death reigned, ha thanatos ebasiulisin dia tu henos, death reigned through the one, then how much more will the abundance of grace and the free gift of righteousness reign in life That is, those who are receiving it, lambanantes, will reign in life through the one Jesus Christ. So we have two impositions here, imputations, I should say. The imputation of God that when Adam sinned, sin was imputed to every human being, but also the imputation that those then who receive the righteousness of God, righteousness is imputed to everyone, but one has to receive it before it becomes effective. That's why Paul speaks of for by grace you have been delivered, saved through faith. And here he uses the Greek participle lambanantes, those who are receiving it. He goes on to say, therefore, then, as through the one transgression, hos dechenas paraptomatas, eis pantas anthropus, eis kataklima, unto all men unto condemnation. By one transgression, Paul is saying condemnation was imputed to everyone. But then he goes on to say, not only do we have that, but he says, thus also, hutos kai dichenas de kaiomatas, through the one act of righteousness, eis pantas anthropus, unto all men was the imputation resulting in righteousness, eis de kaioma, de dikaiosin soes, was imputed the righteousness of life. And Paul is saying he's already said that God imputed righteousness through Christ to everyone, just like sin and transgression and a sin nature was imputed to all mankind, all humankind. Thus, so was the work of Christ, but to those who receive it. Here again, one has to receive it before it becomes effective. It's there, but one has to receive it before the effect of it, can I say, kicks in and becomes reality. I'm reminded I can go into a store with a lot of cookies, and there's enough to cover not only for me, but for my wife Janet or anyone with us, but we have to receive it before it becomes our own. It's the same way here. Availability is there in the imposition of righteousness, but it becomes effective by receiving it. And then Paul goes on to say, for just as through the disobedience of the one man, many were constituted sinners. Hos per gardia tes parakaes tu henas anthropu harmatoloi katesta thesan. Hoi poloi. Many were constituted sinners through the disobedience of the one man. Thus, hoi poloi, thus also through the disobedience of the one man, many were constituted sinners. Thus also diates hupakaes tu henas, through the obedience of the one, dikaioi katastathes santai hoi poloi. Many shall be constituted righteous. In other words, to be righteous, one has to receive it. We've already been told that in verse 17. But the availability has already been provided through the work of Christ, through his death, burial, and resurrection, which, by the way, was in the mind of God and planned I believe in an eternal covenant before the foundation of the world, because Christ was a lamb slain before the foundation of the world, but that, can I say, plan was then in time executed when Christ died. So what he's really saying here is that we have original sin in Adam, and everyone has sinned as a result of Adam's sin. And we have hence sin that was imputed. We also have inherited sin. We've inherited from Adam all the way down. And then we have actual sin. For all have sinned and are falling short of the glory of God, Paul says. So the beautiful truth here is there's been two, can I say, imputations. The imputation of transgression through the one person, Adam, under the whole human race, as I'm understanding Paul. But then at the same time, the imputation of the righteousness brought about in Christ through what he's done, but it's to those who then receive it. And that's where faith comes in. For by grace are you saved through faith. And this is not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, lest anyone should boast. My mind goes to that great text in the book of Ephesians, where Paul talks about that great truth. For by grace we are saved through faith. In Ephesians 2:8, te gar karati este sesos menoi dia pistos. For by grace have you been saved through faith, kai tuta uk ex humon, and this is not out of you, that is this salvation. And I believe everything about the salvation is not out of you, and I think it's talking about the need to believe. It is the gift of God, the utadom doran. So, not out of works, uk ex ergon, in order lest anyone should boast, hinemetis calcasetai, for we are his workmanship, autugar esmen poema, having been created in Christ Jesus unto good works. I love that verse. Kitistentes in Christo Jesu, epi ergois agathois, unto good works. Good works should follow, but the fire in the chimney comes by faith. The smoke coming out of the chimney, can I say, is the result of that faith. And it is that which God, that would be our works that follow, the faith that comes through that finished work of Christ, where God decreed that he would impute righteousness to all who will have faith and believe in what Christ has done. And this is something that God has made possible. Thank the Lord, for by grace you are saved through faith. But then we're created unto good works, which he prepared in advance for those who believe, in order that by them, having created in Christ Jesus, the good works which God prepared for those who are willing to believe, which he prepared in order that in them we might walk. Hena in autois peripatesomen. We're to walk in the good works that follow the reality of our faith in Jesus Christ. So we have two, can I say, imputations here. The one from Adam to the whole human race. When Adam sinned, everybody sinned by imputed sin. But the good news is Christ provided the means for imputed righteousness, the imputation of righteousness through faith in him, which is the necessary ingredient to access that, can I say, imputed righteousness available to all of humankind, but it has to be received by faith, by pistis, by faith. So what a beautiful teaching that the Apostle Paul is presenting.